Hello guys, welcome to another crime podcast. I thought why not, while we've got the extra time, do another one. So we're going to double dip. I really enjoyed doing them the other day, so I thought why not, let's get cracking with another episode of Devils in the Dark and have a bit of a listen along indeed. So Alexa, resume.
Resuming Amazon Music.
Alexa, stop. Resume, Alexa, resume Devils in the Dark.
Here's Devils in the Dark from Amazon Music.
What?
Here's episode 16. 16. Edmund
Alexa,
Campbell.
stop. Oh, this is going well. Alexa, Devils in the Dark, John Wayne Gacy episode. Oh, God.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Panther! Alexa. God. Episode 5 of Devils in the Dark.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Alexa, Devils in the Dark, episode 5. Alexa, Devils in the Dark, episode 5, podcast. Oh my God.
Here's Devils in the Dark from Amazon Music. Here's episode 5. 5. John Wayne Gacy.
Yay, we got it working.
In a clown.
Hi everyone, it's Dan.
We got it working, and then everyone buggered off. Of course, never mind.
Where we take a deep
We got it working though. Huzzah, welcome everyone.
criminals in history.
Apologies for the problems.
Hated dad in the UK.
Spooky.
He is evil. He is narcissistic.
So we got our big bottle of water with us for our podcast listen along, and we got our monster.
Anthill kids. I truly think that this might be the worst case I've ever heard of.
Yeah, so if you are interested in weird cults and stuff, I recommend looking up the Anthill Kids. Really weird.
True crime podcast, The Criminal Maker. Search for The Criminal Maker.
Yeah, the Anthill Kids is one of the weirdest cults in America, so I do recommend that.
Hello, welcome to Devils in the Dark.
Ooh.
Me, Helen Anderson, and me, Danny Howard. In
There we
every
go.
episode, we're going to be turning back the clock and looking at some of the worst murder cases in history.
Spooky!
In this episode, we're looking into the infamous clown killer. It's John Wayne Gacy.
Huzzah! Bit spooky this one, by the way, guys. If you're sensitive to clowns and things like that, it's a spooky one.
How are you today, Danny?
I'm fine!
Like,
Huzzah!
since
No, it's not me.
you're
No.
a clown killer, and you're just full of dread. I'm dreading this one. I'm
Mhm.
worried. I don't want to do not like clowns.
I don't know if you remember, guys, but back in the day there was those weird killer clowns, wasn't there, in the UK? Do you remember that?
I don't believe in clowns. I don't think I'm afraid necessarily of clowns, but I'm afraid of people in masks.
Mm.
I'm afraid of masks, or like when I can't see a person's face. And
So you're afraid of clowns then?
Basically. So yes, that was a long way of saying yes. I think I am afraid of clowns.
It's easy to be afraid of clowns. I'm pretty freaked by them as well. What about you guys?
Because I don't see anything about a clown that isn't sinister.
Literally never. How do you feel about clowns?
I don't like them either.
Mm.
There's just some, even if you haven't seen
Yeah.
any horror or anything related to clowns being bad, they are still bad.
No, they're not. They're lovely people,
Never.
I'm sure.
They're terrifying.
Most of
Even
them.
as a child. Like
Yeah.
at a birthday party where they're making the balloon things. No, thank you.
Most of the time, clowns are cool, right?
So let's set the scene.
Dun dun dun.
It is December 11th, 1978.
So not that long ago when you think of the
Yes,
broad
Illinois.
scheme of things, right?
Illinois, it's almost 9 p.m. and 15-year-old Rob Peast is getting ready to end his shift at a pharmacy. When Rob's mother arrives to pick him up, he asks if she can wait, and he
Oh.
tells her he wants to talk to a contractor about a construction job. So
There you
she
go.
agrees. He heads back into the car park and he meets the contractor, who then offers to drive Rob back to his home to fill out an application.
Mm.
So Rob goes with him. Rob Peast is never seen alive again.
That is bad.
When her son doesn't return, Rob's mother panics and files a missing person report
Wow.
that evening. Mike
So he was offered a job and then disappeared. Weird, right?
And at that time, in the late 70s, there was a lot of stuff going on with the hippie movement and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But he made a determination very quickly that this was not a normal, quote-unquote, runaway. Didn't have a girlfriend problem.
Yeah, everyone just ran away and became
Small
hippies.
American good kid.
The last person seen with Rob at the pharmacy was John Wayne Gacy.
Ooh.
So John he was a local businessman, socialite, and politician.
Yes,
He's
and a
famous
very
in the
well-respected
community.
member of the
He
community.
spends his weekends entertaining children as a clown named Pogo or Pogo.
I recommend you look up John Wayne Gacy killer clown in Google and look what he looks like, because it is scary.
The Chicago police take him into custody, and Detective Dave Hatchmeister is alarmed and stunned when he started digging, quite literally, into John's elusive past.
Yeah,
We ran a
be
record
careful.
check on him, and as it turns out, he had a fairly lengthy background. He had spent some time in Iowa for sodomy, and so it was sexual crimes basically
Ooh.
against children.
Scary.
So on December 21st, police searched John's classic American suburban home at 1813 West Somerdale Avenue.
When they executed that
Freaky.
search warrant, they went in the crawl space. And the very
Yeah, so there's a
first
crawl
cell
space under American
found
houses,
human remains.
and that's
Yeah.
where all the bodies
You're
were.
not going to believe this. They discover 27 bodies
Jesus.
underneath his house.
Yeah. Underneath his house, there was a load of dead
Under his
bodies.
house, it was essentially a mass grave.
Gross, right?
They keep looking and eventually find another 3 bodies. So in total, 30 bodies were found underneath his house.
That's nuts, isn't it, really? When you think on it, that is bonkers. Let me see if I can get the other
Get away with murder.
angle right. Yeah, so he managed to get away with murder 20 odd times. That's nuts,
This
isn't
is
it?
probably the worst one yet in terms of body count.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a hell of a body count just right there. And there's such
Yeah, that's nuts, isn't it, really, when you think on it? 20 odd bodies.
It's underneath his house, underneath his clown, all those bodies underneath his house. Let's just keep going. Let's go back to the start. So John Wayne Gacy was born in 1942
That's
in
better,
Chicago,
isn't it?
Illinois.
Yeah.
Love the word Illinois.
Alexa, volume up.
Chicago, Illinois,
Yeah.
Illinois, into a working class family, and
Yes.
he was the second of 3 children,
Ooh, okay.
and he was the only son. However, like always, he was victim of a violent alcoholic upbringing. His father was abusive. He would mentally and physically abuse his wife and his children.
Horrible when you
And
think
it's quite
of it,
sad,
isn't it?
really. So John's friend Barry Buscelli, he actually remembers what John's abusive childhood was like.
Oh, horrible, isn't
Johnny
it?
was 2 minutes late, no food. So a lot of times Johnny ate at our house and stayed at our house overnight. He used to
Wow,
take
that's
Johnny
horrible,
and
isn't it,
sit at
really,
the
when you
kitchen
think on
table,
it?
And he would take his fist and hit Johnny in the face.
His dad would often hit him, he'd abuse him, verbally
So the
assault him.
dad has
Um,
really
often
like
called
helped to
him
cause
stupid
how he
and
feels
effeminate.
and how this has all happened.
Despite
Horrible,
the
isn't it?
abuse, John still admired his father and sought his approval. So
Oh.
it seems like no matter what he did wasn't good enough.
No, it's
He'd get
horrible, isn't
abused
it?
for it. He'd get shouted at, hit, but he's just always trying to get the reaction that he wanted, which was obviously love and nurturing, which he never got. Crime author and journalist Jeffrey Wansell
It's really
suspects
sad
the use
that,
of child
you know,
abuse laid grounds for
Child
John's dark and
abuse
violent future.
started the way he
The father is a
was,
very
you know, it's horrible.
significant figure in the genesis of Gacy's terrible deeds. For, to my mind, Gacy was always trying to satisfy his father, whom he never could.
Oh, that's
He
sad, isn't it?
was beaten repeatedly.
That is really sad when things like that happen.
With belts, with brooms. At one stage he was knocked out by him.
So Harold Schechter, who is a true crime writer who specialises in serial killers, has the inside track of a killer's mind.
These people
Spooky,
grow up with
isn't it?
such a malignant view of the world and of human relationships, and feeling that human relationships are not based on love and trust and respect.
Sad, isn't it, when
It's
things
all
like
based
that
on
happen? So
Exploitation,
it's literally,
and cruelty, and
you know,
inflicting
been
pain.
warped
As a
from a
child,
young
John was
age
sick
to end
all
up
the
acting
time.
horrible.
He was overweight and he was teased because of it. He was also diagnosed with a heart condition.
Ooh.
And so it was kind of hard for him to hang out with other kids. It made the gap between him and other kids even bigger.
That's horrible,
He
isn't it?
couldn't participate in sports or any other physical activity. So obviously as a kid, physical activity in sport is quite a big deal, especially in America.
How's it going, Gunnar? Welcome!
So, you know, being part of the community and making friends, you know, we made loads of friends at our gym, so...
Yeah, so tonight we're listening to John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown
John got
podcast.
really into politics and worked as a precinct captain for a
So
neighbourhood
if you haven't heard of Devils in the Dark, I recommend
so
you check them
that's
out.
like
They're a really good
the
podcast too.
leader of the party of a local election,
Yeah.
sort of thing. As soon as he had a car, he left his abusive father, see you later, and got to the States.
Really? You got to call a boy racer a
He
naughty
spent
word?
many nights
Why?
alone
What
in the
happened?
mortuary and would often sleep on a cot near the embalming room.
Oh, that's not weird or creepy.
So he used to sleep in the funeral
Of all
home.
the places that you could sleep in Vegas, why not? Why a mortuary?
But saying
Why
that,
would you sleep in a
all the places
mortuary?
In a
Oh.
mortuary,
Yeah.
probably one of the better ones. You're going to
Horrible.
say he slept in one of the fridges.
One evening, he climbed into a coffin.
Oh,
here we
God.
go, and he molested the corpse.
Ugh, grim!
He immediately regretted it, calling his mother the next day to tell her he was coming home to Chicago. He didn't give a reason why.
No, of course not. You're not going to say, oh, I slept in a coffin.
I molested a corpse. I'm coming home.
That's grim. Would you sleep in a coffin, guys?
It was time for a
I
new
wouldn't.
job.
It's weird.
John became a management trainee at a shoe company. He was soon promoted and transferred to Springfield.
Oh dear. No, neither would I.
He started
You
dating
know
a
when
co-worker
work is
and
being
married
done in one lane of an A road
Criminologist
and he
Dr.
pushes him
Elizabeth
because he's a
Yardley describes the
BMW
life
and
John
thinks the
had
Jack,
begun to build
the
himself.
chucking lad.
Gacy
Wow, I
married
hope you're
a wife who on
alright.
the outside appeared to be relatively normal. He had quite a good job. His wife had
Yeah, so
two
he was a
children.
politician
So they
and
appeared to
everything,
be
like a government
into the
official,
cereal box
and he turned
American
into a
nuclear
nutty
family.
killer
But Gacy
clown.
wasn't just a regular family man. He
No.
was also quite active in the local Chamber of Commerce, and he played quite an active role. And he was a real
I would beep at him, that's for sure.
Before we go any further, how does a case of free beer sound?
Thanks to our pals
Free
at
beer.
52,
Sounds great.
you can grab a case for free.
But yeah, this guy used to give out free chicken and everything to loads of people. He was big in the community and then went totally nuts and killed a load of people
It's not.
as a killer clown. It's so bizarre.
Beer.
You didn't get a chance to flip him off. Hopefully you will.
To receive in the post. I did actually.
Yeah, look up John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. You'll be freaked out. That's who this is about.
And it's so fun opening the box up to see what they've sent you. There's a lovely variety of IPA.
Oh
stout,
dear,
and
exactly.
then, there's some Pilsner in there, wasn't there? And they come with some really fun packaging as well, and from all over the place. So I'm a massive fan of Beer 52.
I'm not
Yeah.
normally a beer drinker.
Beer.
but,
Actually, I do have some beer.
What the boxes have given me is the chance to try different ones.
Yeah,
without
just
that
chat to
pressure
me and
of,
listen,
being
buddy. It's all
told
good.
how to
It's all
like
good.
it. And what I
You're
have
good,
learned
mate. It's
is
okay. Yeah, I wouldn't
beer.
recommend looking it up. It's really
I prefer
freaky.
a paler ale.
The way he even
and
drew his
like a
clown
Pilsner.
face was freaky.
Yes,
It looked like something out of
Um,
Kiss, but
Not
a
so much
lot
the dark
worse.
No, I must admit, I.
You got
give
whiskey and
myself
cola.
to
I do have a
partner.
beer in the
And
cupboard,
what
actually, I
is
might
good
have.
is you can pick whether
There
you
might be a
want
point.
black or
I do have
dark.
Exactly.
Monster
So I think
Ultra
the
Black
next time I'll
today,
do, like,
not sponsored,
dark
which it
ones so
was.
that I can gift them to other people and be like, look, what a lovely gift.
It's a nice one. It's like cherry coke.
Now I'm a friendly.
Yeah, that's like cherry coke.
Beer 52 is the biggest beer club in the world.
Whiskey and cola. What type of whiskey, young man? What type of whiskey you got?
Well,
This month's is really fun. They're great European road trip case.
Tomorrow I need to
Best beer
do
from across the desert.
a Pokemon unboxing, so that's going to be fun.
7.5%
Don't let me
double
forget that,
IPA.
guys.
That's what I'm talking about. I love the strong
Ooh.
IPAs. From
IPA. Now, I don't know about you,
and
Gunnar, but I love an
delicious
IPA. What do you think?
Croatia, Poland, Germany, Serbia, and Austria.
I
Now,
do
if
love a
dark
nice
beer isn't your
IPA.
thing, like me, you can totally just choose the lighter case. And did we mention?
No, you need a
get
nice heavy
snacks,
IPA.
Perfect for the beer too.
I ate some of
A
them
nice
last night.
heavy
I was
IPA,
gonna
lovely.
do that. It was so good.
Oh, I just love snacks.
Beer and snack, perfect.
Brilliant.
All of that.
Dear. I'm now, by the way, guys, on my third day of a water
So
fast.
head to
Fun and games.
www.beer52.com/dark to claim your
Not.
free case now.
That's www.52.com.
No! White and McKay? Never heard of that one.
A couple of years later, John and his wife relocated to Iowa.
Well, yeah.
Waterloo in Iowa.
IPA,
where
nice.
John
How's it going,
managed fast
Gizmo?
food chain restaurants owned by his
Do you
father.
like IPAs,
And then he
Gizmo?
also joined
We're
the
listening to a
Waterloo
podcast
JC
all together, Gizmo. It's my new thing. We listen to podcasts together and chat about it and stuff.
And quickly
How are you, Gizmo? You right,
it's
mate?
looking good for him. Just only a year later, he was named Outstanding Vice President and served on their board of directors. He
Blended
brought free
Scotch,
fried
very
chicken
nice.
to meetings and insisted on being called Colonel.
So there you go. He was a big
So everyone
government
loved John
official
because he
and
brought them
brought
fried
chicken to meetings and everything.
I'm sorry, but if someone brought me fried chicken to meetings, I'd be like, oh, John, he's so great.
Yummy.
Every time.
Thanks, John. Fried chicken.
Yeah.
He's a killer clown.
Oh, well, Caribbean would take chicken everywhere, but like, it stinks.
You like the proper strong stuff? Nice. Yeah, I don't mind a good tipple as well.
I'd be like, I hope John's coming.
But I do
today.
like IPA.
John. Yeah, I'll come hungry, but still, shut up.
Yeah, but what if it was
Oh, you
vegetarian
do,
roast?
Gizmo.
Like
Nice.
corn nuggets.
Gizmo, do you listen to podcasts?
Exactly. I love John. John at every meeting.
I do. I prefer ale that would make elephants sleep for after 4 pints. Nice. Nice. Strong ale, sir. Love it.
From now, it sounds like he's doing quite well for himself. Well done, John. Everyone loves him.
Yeah,
love
see,
John, but
he's
they
doing
don't want
really
him
well
to succeed
for
yet.
himself,
And
John.
that is, he has
And then
unhealthy
things go
interests in
downhill
young boys.
very
That is
quickly.
unstoppable. So John's first known assault was in
Oh.
August 1967.
Ah,
And it was a 15-year-old boy. So basically, John coerced him into his basement
horrible, isn't it?
with the promise of free porn.
Oh,
and
dear.
alcohol. Yeah. And then after getting the boy drunk, John forced him to perform oral sex. It's sad because, you know when you're 15 and all you really want is like booze and fags and all the things and the party.
All the
And
naughty
I
stuff.
went to- When I went to these random house parties when I was 15.
I want to see your cat's
And
reaction.
you know,
She's
you can't
asleep
do
at the
that.
minute and I don't know where the others are.
They could have been anyone. And so
Ruby is asleep
it
at the
probably
minute.
was a
Sorry,
big thing
Gizmo.
to do that, to coerce people.
But yeah,
into the basement.
Ruby and all that guy, hopefully
Well, no,
they'll pop
also, if
in.
he's already sort of like a pillar of the community,
Yeah, no
he's
one's-
You're
trust-
mad.
Trusting.
Exactly, and it was.
I know, Gunner, I know.
So,
Bad things.
And,
happen
you know, alcohol and porn was even more hard to, well, not, I don't know, like frowned upon or hard to get hold of.
I guess
perhaps?
porn would have been in a magazine, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know how that makes a difference. It's just not as easily accessible.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that
Well.
thing that's forbidden that I can't get hold of. This guy got some, I want some of that. But obviously,
He is a right
Yeah,
F-wit.
so
I'll
he
tell you,
continued
this
to act
this
like
guy
this
is not a
predatory
nice person.
behaviour, thinking he could act without any kind of consequences.
That's it. So he was quite high in the American government, local government, so he thought he could do whatever he wanted.
But in March 1968, the boy told his father about the incident with John, and his father immediately went to the police.
Hell yeah.
Harold Schetzer said John tried to retaliate.
Gacy hired another teenager
Ooh.
to intimidate this kid, to lure this kid into.
See, look at that. So he's
some
trying to get
places
people to
where
not
Gacy's
testify
eyes
and
would beat
stuff.
him up and warn him against testifying in Gacy's case.
John promised the teenager $300 if he followed through with his plan, but the boy testifying against John managed to escape the attempted assault.
Yes,
and
he's a
went
very
straight to
nasty
the police,
person, this
And
John.
the other teen was arrested the following day and told the police everything.
You'll find his driving piss on it. Very good idea. He's not a very nice man.
Sentence,
But it gets worse. Sorry to say.
To 10 years in prison.
So it didn't really work in his favour.
No.
So on the 3rd of 1968, he was sent to prison at Anamosa State Penitentiary. His wife filed for divorce. I don't blame her.
Would you blame her?
Died of cirrhosis of the liver.
Wow.
The news struck John hard, and he did ask to go to the funeral, but he was denied. So this guy's
no worries, young man. See you in a bit.
Community. He managed to work his way up the ranks in various communal groups, clubs, etc.
There you go.
Like buy people's love with fried chicken, and even in prison he managed to manipulate people with his charisma and his charm.
Come on, darling.
Given
Say hello to everyone.
perfect nature of Gacy's ability to groom whomever he came into contact with, within a matter of months, Gacy had become head cook at the prison.
So you become head cook at the prison? That's
Staff
nuts,
that
isn't
he was
it?
absolutely
Tish.
ideal person. What's more, then convinced the parole board that he was no danger to anybody, and so served barely 18 months of the 10 years of his
18 months of a 10-year sentence because he convinced that he was a nice person.
There's a theme here, isn't it? Yeah, there's fried chicken, and then he was.
So he basically got out of prison for being a good cook. That's mad.
He's just feeding everyone in DNA, so they love him.
Yeah, he's just feeding everyone drugs. Don't worry, nom-noms.
How good looking
Come on, darling.
does a man have to be for you to eat his fried chicken?
Oh, yeah.
And that's not a euphemism. Fried chicken. Yeah, actually, I watched you eat a stranger's hot dog once.
I know, that's
When
mad.
did I do that? It was at download. I was busy having a wee, and a man came over to have a look, and you took a bite of his hot dog.
Can you imagine just going up to someone and eating their hot
He just
dogs?
ordered it. He just ordered it to you.
That's nuts,
like
isn't
a
it?
small dog just came up.
Cat bum.
And I was busy going, why are you watching me have a wee? Because I was in the middle of a field having a wee.
Can you imagine eating someone
We
else's
digress.
hot dog, just coming up to him and eating it? That's nuts.
Okay, in June 1970, aged only 28,
Yep.
John Wayne Gacy was released from prison after only serving 18 months of his 10-year sentence. He was put on
Bonkers.
probation for 1 year, unlike Unterweger. If you haven't listened to our previous episode, then you should just listen to it.
That's
And he went
absolutely
to
nuts,
prison
isn't
in
it?
Chicago for a bit, and none of his friends, his family, or neighbours had any idea about what he'd been up to or the crimes
See,
he'd committed.
he
His
completely
background was
got
not
rid of the
really
evidence and everything. That's
partly
nuts.
Because he didn't go into any line of work in which any kind of background check would have been necessary.
There you go.
He began his own business.
See, in America, like, you could get away without, like, work, you could get away with working without any background checks or anything. It's not like the UK.
To a divorcee who already had 2 kids. And so things were looking up for John. He's got the house, he's got the wife, he's in a nice neighbourhood.
There you
And
go.
he starts his own construction business. He's doing painting, decorating and maintenance. And
Yeah.
it was called PDM Contractors. And, you know, like before, he continued to have a friendly face in the community. And on weekends, he would dress up as a clown for children's parties and hospitals.
The fact that Gacy had this other persona, this Pogo the Clown, professional clowns usually, you know...
Yeah, if you're feeling brave, look up Pogo the
you know,
Clown,
sort
John
of
Wayne
gentle,
Gacy. It is
circular
freaky.
things around
And
their
he
legs.
would do
Gacy's
this act
smile
for
looked
kids.
like bat wings. There's just something horrifically sinister and monstrous about
If you've seen the Joker
spirit,
scene where he was in the hospital and stuff, it's definitely inspired by John Wayne
And a
Gacy.
mythic
Freaky.
American monster.
I'm about to get up a picture of him as a clown. Oh my god.
Oh, I would like to sleep tonight.
That is not the kind of clown you want just turning up at your house.
Oh, heck.
He looks a bit like he should be in Kiss.
Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna visually describe this.
Yeah.
So he's got blue, like drag eyeshadow, like
Yeah.
Panto Dome eyeshadow,
Mhm.
right? But then his mouth is done, oh heck, kind of like,
It looks like a bat.
it
It
does
is.
look like a bat, but like Batman bat.
Yeah.
It's like a Batman bat,
Batman
like
logo.
round the other
Yeah,
way.
on
on his
Freaky.
mouth, so it's very pointy.
Mhm.
And he appears to be smiling, but that kind of smile where your face is pointed down slightly and he's looking up, which immediately makes you look insane.
Really weird.
And he's holding balloons, which is never comforting. No, two scary things in one go. Clown, balloon, and he's got a weird pointy hat and the big shoes. It's too much.
He was a true socialite.
Scary as hell.
This is a pattern. Socialites, don't trust him.
No.
He loved parties. I love parties, but I don't trust you.
No.
But what I'm saying is I love parties. I don't want to do this, especially at his house, especially at my house.
Oh God.
Who hosts the parties?
You do.
I do. But
With fried chicken, hopefully. Nom nom. Yeah, third day of a water fast today, guys. I am hungry.
Lingering odd smells, unless Diane has weed on the carpet. His wife complained of it too.
So they're
and
finding
just
weird
destroyed
smells
the smell
under
was
the
due to
house.
A moisture build-up. So he'd spread lime in the crawl space under the house where the smell appeared to be coming from to mask the stench.
See, lime's like a
Sometimes
really
you
strong
have-
chemical that dissolves stuff.
So after a while, his wife had noticed him bringing teenagers.
No worries, Gizmo. Thank you, mate.
And on multiple occasions found gay porn
Oh,
they'd hidden in
dear.
the house. Right, yeah, so it's a few red flags.
And that's probably not
Yeah.
that easy to come by.
No.
When is this, the 70s?
Yeah, 1976.
Yeah, probably not that easy to come by, is it?
No, and also probably not very accepting.
Exactly, that's what I mean. It's not very accepting for that time period, so that is a big red flag
to deal with, the
for
fact
someone.
that
It's not like modern times,
shortly after.
where it's completely acceptable and rightly so. Back in the 70s, this would have been a big red flag
Hey,
for something
I'm
bad
Olivia.
happening.
And I want to tell you about a new podcast series called Smoking Gun.
Bang bang.
In it, we tell the extraordinary
I'm yet to
stories
actually
of
watch,
forensic clues and
listen to
everyday
this one, I
items
should
that
say.
help to solve real crimes.
Mm.
We tell the story of a murder.
So let me know, guys, if there's any other
evidence
podcasts you would like me to listen to or any other suggestions. I'd love to hear from you on this one. Oh, yes.
and reveal how a regular house brick carried the evidence to identify a murderer.
That's pretty cool.
Each week, we bring in a brand new story and unpack the scientific techniques which were used. Smoking Gun is the only podcast series supported by the British Academy of Forensic Science.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
You can listen to a new episode of Smoking Gun every Friday.
I'm going to have to listen to this podcast. I'll tell you, if it's like associated with that, that's
So
mad.
this is a turning point for Gacy, and a sinister grip took hold of him.
Oh, okay.
The painting and decorating business became bait for attracting young boys seeking.
Horrible, isn't it?
As you can imagine, you
So
know.
basically, he was using the painting and decorating business to try and lure people in to murder them and stuff. Horrible.
It is the perfect position to be in to lure in young boys.
Horrible, isn't it?
So, before long, dozens of young boys started going missing.
Dozens.
Dozens. On December 11th, 1978, John met with the owner of a pharmacy in town of Des Plaines to discuss a potential remodelling job.
There you go.
John
Oh.
mentioned within earshot of employee Rob Peast that his company hired teenage boys at a starting wage of $5 an hour.
Yes.
Which was double the amount Rob made at his job at the
So
pharmacy.
he's trying to lure him in by paying him more.
Doing that to seem appealing, so probably was planning on the outcome of this. So that night, Rob Peast went missing after working at the pharmacy.
That's not
And
good, is it?
Detective Hatchmeister was on the case and said that it was unlike anything else he had dealt with at the time.
That's
Rob
nuts.
Peast was like a stellar kid.
There you go.
He was the kind of kid that anyone would want as a son. Never been in trouble, never had any inclination to run away. He was a good student, very, very
So
much
it's
out
very
there.
bizarre that he went
would
missing.
Turn up missing. So, yeah, that caught our attention, obviously.
As I mentioned earlier, the two detectives on the case eventually found the last person who'd seen Rob, and
Yeah.
it was John. So they took him into custody.
So
and
John
he
was the
denied
last
all
person to
of
see
having
this
any
child.
involvement with his disappearance. But during questioning, the police out back were combing through John's records, and
Yeah.
they found incriminating evidence, including an outstanding battery charge against him in Chicago, and his time in prison for the
See, in America, it's not like the UK. Different counties and different states have got different laws. And that's why they always say, oh, you don't leave the country or don't leave town in America, because you could literally hop over to Mexico and be fine.
His house, and like other people that had been to his house, they noticed a weird stench, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly where
It was a weird smell under the house.
As they were looking through his home, they discovered a collection of very suspicious things.
They recovered various items of pornography.
Oh dear.
They recovered some books that were titled Pretty Boys Must Die.
That's horrible, isn't
They
it?
also recovered driver's licenses of other young people, and they did a check on those driver's licenses.
He left all the evidence in his
Those
house.
kids were also reported missing.
Driving licenses, everything. Why would you keep it?
Souvenirs, isn't it?
Yeah, but like, if you're doing bad stuff, you don't want to hide in your house.
You'd hide it better, but then I
It's
guess.
like receipts, isn't
Well,
it?
I guess he's just he wasn't planning on getting caught.
No.
Yeah, so why would you keep it in the house? Doesn't make sense. Burn it.
That was being developed from the same pharmacy where Rob Peast had worked. So they're like, hang about. Detective Albrecht thought what we're all thinking, this doesn't look good.
Initially, we're hoping to find Rob Peast alive someplace.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't take long to realize that probably was not going to happen.
Yeah. That's really sad, isn't it? That he went missing and then something like he died. That's horrible, isn't it?
Which belonged to a 19-year-old John Cizik, last seen in January 1977. Further investigation revealed that 2 of John's employees have also been reported missing. 17-year-old John Butkovich, last seen July 1975.
All right.
And Gregory Godzik, also 17 years old, missing since December 96.
Horrible, isn't it?
So these are all employees. Why have they only just realised that there's just this connection that
They're all employed by the same company and they're all
my son
dying.
didn't come home from work.
Surely that's a tell, yeah?
Maybe his workplace is eating him up, like.
Because he distracted them with chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Check in, everyone.
So the search was solidified that there's suspicions of John. His employees are just continuously going missing, and there's one common denominator here, and that is John being the employer.
Yeah,
So making
they
him
all
quite
keep going
suspect.
missing,
But the
and John's
evidence
like,
wasn't
don't know where they've all
substantial enough to make
gone.
an arrest. There were no bodies, no nothing. So
They're all under
John
his
was
house.
released under constant surveillance by detectives Dave and Mike. So they've had to follow him around everywhere that he went. You know, like when people are being spied on in movies and the car is always like behind them. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, like a window cleaning van.
Yeah, and this. They just followed him around everywhere.
It's like in Matilda where they were sitting outside the house.
He knew he was being surveyed by them because John was another master manipulator.
Yes. Oh.
He tried to befriend them, and they even said at times that they found it difficult, and they had to remember. Hang on a minute, no, this guy's not our friend. We're surveilling him because he could be a potential murderer.
He is a
He
murderer.
even managed to.
So he managed to
overstay
convince the
these
police he was a nice person. That is a bad person, I tell you. That is rotten.
Or they'd be following around, and like this waitress came over and plonked 2 beers down on the table and said that guy's paying for them, and he'd be like.
So he even bought, the killer bought the police beer and everything. That's nuts.
Well, a guilty person wouldn't send beers over.
Well, exactly.
John Wayne Gacy
Well, they
had
would.
a psychopathic personality, so he really does seek out power and he seeks out control, and he likes playing with people. He's a bit of a puppet master, and I think that was driving his behaviour.
Everyone that we talked to just loved John Wayne Gacy. His neighbors, his co-workers, all of his associates, they loved the guy. And we could see that. I mean, the way he was interacting with us was basically the same.
It's
And
nuts,
partner
isn't
and
it?
I,
He managed to
we
convince
have
the
on
police
many
pretty much that he was a good
occasions remind one
person.
another, hey, listen, this guy is dangerous.
But even though John was trying to get in their heads, detectives Dave and Mike entered the room again. They're like, no, we know what we've got to do. And they continued their surveillance.
Good.
Meanwhile, back at the station, disturbing new evidence began to surface as authorities questioned friends and colleagues of John.
So they're closing in on John now. They're closing in on the killer
And at
clown.
times, Gacy had ordered these young kids to go down into his crawl space of his home and dig trenches, and he had told them
That's
that
nuts.
there was,
So he was
sewage
literally
issue,
employing
and
other
that he needed
teenagers to
trenches
deal with the
done
dead bodies.
so he could alleviate that situation.
Bonkers.
But they said that it happened several times, and that there was an odor down there that was just unbelievable. So now we're starting to believe, hey, is it possible? I know it sounds crazy, but is it possible he could have buried someone in a crawl space?
Someone, about 20 people.
Hiring young boys to literally dig graves.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
And it could have been their own graves.
It could have been,
Gets other
yeah,
people
he could have been
unwittingly
employing them
involved
to
in his
do their
family,
own graves.
and
That's
they
so
don't know
weird.
anything of what's going on. And I think that's what gets him gratification, the fact that he has such power over other people, that they're not joining the dots together, and
Exactly,
that he's
yeah,
able
it's
to hide
weird.
in plain sight.
So at this point, as
So weird.
the police are convinced that he's hiding something. So detectives Dave and Mike hatched a plan.
We were on the surveillance for about 7 days. And as the surveillance progressed, what we found out was that he had this huge core support
There you go.
of friends and family and co-workers and the such. And that is really what was the barrier between us.
So he had a community of people
So we
all
developed a
for
plan
him
for
and
the
protecting him.
investigators
That's
to put some
weird,
pressure on
right?
all these people that were supporting him, and slowly
I'm
they
getting
started
Jimmy
peeling
Savile
back
vibes from
Gacy.
that, definitely.
So in
Not that Jimmy
December
Savile was a murderer,
1968,
but
John
just
left
as bad.
his home, and by
Welcome
this
back,
point,
Gunnar.
He's completely dishevelled. He's just
But yeah,
full of
so the
anxiety,
his community
and
stopped him from
he's
getting in trouble. It's
unshaven.
weird, isn't
He
it?
just looks like a total mess because he's just this pressure from this round the clock surveillance, like as you would be every time you leave the house, someone's following you and watching you and bad mouthing you and destroying his reputation amongst the community, constantly being harassed during this investigation.
There you
So
go.
he is kind of being chipped away at. He goes to his lawyer's office and he basically tries
So
to
basically,
find
the police are closing in. He's not feeling very well.
They're harassing him and, like I said, destroying his reputation with their investigation.
Mm.
But he didn't know that afternoon that the police had found more evidence, and the photo receipt found in John's home was traced back to a co-worker of Rob's at the
Hey,
time.
there you go. So they're connecting the
police
dots
contacted
now.
the girl who told them that she had placed the receipt in Rob's jacket pocket right before he left the store to meet with the contractor.
There you go.
So, because obviously he's like,
What you got now, Gunnar? You got a nice
that he
drinky
decided
for me?
to become even more erratic.
Mm.
We follow Gacy, and Gacy is driving like a madman, and he drives to the Shell gas station where he did all of his business. He goes in, and we see a transaction happen in the gas station.
Was very emotional, shaking his hand and almost on the side, hugging that kind of thing. And it was just a lot of context for Gacy.
So when Gacy comes back out...
What drink you got,
takes
sir? You got a
off,
nice one for me?
I go back in the gas station, and when I go in there...
So they're
they
closing
throw
in on the
a couple of bags of
clown.
marijuana
They'd be
at
able to
the employees.
like
and
match
they
up
say, "Hey, listen,
receipts
we
and
didn't buy this, we didn't
locations
ask
and
for
things
it.
like that.
Gacy just gave it to us.
So he's clearly not thinking straight because he's trying to get rid of this weed, throws it at these teenagers. So, but the police now have a reason to arrest him, which is because he's, you know,
Was he previously using it to lure the people?
So he's literally throwing weed at people.
Okay.
Whiskey and cola. I am
Yeah.
jealous,
You are.
sir.
Hey, I've got drugs and nudie mags.
yeah, come to my house. I've got more of that of mine.
Yeah.
That's mad, isn't it?
We make a
Can
decision.
you imagine he
at that
lured
point
them with
to
drugs
arrest him for the
and
drug
magazines
transaction
and
that
stuff?
happened
That's
at the Shell
gross,
gas
isn't it?
station. So we cut off the car, pull Gacy out of the car, and arrest him for the drug transaction.
So whilst in custody, detectives
Yes.
told John that they had just got a second search warrant. John
And the survey says...
suddenly goes blank. The colour literally just falls out of his bum,
That's it.
of his face. Because he's like, no, they're going to find them. They're gonna
Oh,
find them.
God.
And he started to experience chest pains, probably quite literally having a heart attack, like, oh God.
Oh, dear.
I'm panicking. So he's taken to a nearby hospital. But in the meantime, the police return to John's house
Yes.
with the intention to find Rob Peast's body, but what they actually find was far worse than they could have imagined.
So they immediately called me. let me know that there was human remains in a crawl space, and at that time I arrested John Gacy for murder. Gacy says he wants to confess, but really he wants to confess to the surveillance team.
Yes.
Both myself and my partner and the other team. And now all of a sudden he's got an audience again.
Yeah.
He's on top of the world.
See, that's what you wanted. You wanted an audience. You wanted people to always watch him.
And so you might as well just divulge everything that actually happened.
He knows that he can't get away with this because the evidence is right there under his house. So it probably
There's
just,
like
the switch goes off in his
10,
brain.
there's like about 10, 15, maybe 20 bodies under his house.
Everything, because there's no going back. You might as well. So this confession lasted several hours. Probably had a lot to tell them. Ugh, 33 murders.
33 murders, oh my god!
Okay. And he also, he draws them a map to show them where all the bodies are.
Oh god.
I gave him a pen and he started writing up, he squared it off in the thing and he started, well, this was a double and this was a triple and this was the first guy with a, put an X on it. Went around the whole crawl space with these places where the body was buried.
God.
I mean, they were digging with spoons and everything, but they obviously identified where all the bodies were, and they did an overlay of where the bodies were actually found.
Okay.
That diagram that he made, and it was unbelievable. It was right on the money.
Wow, that's horrible.
By
Isn't
double and triple, it means double, triple murders. So these happened at the same time. So he was murdering 2 people at once.
Oh my god, that's horrible.
The other person that hadn't been murdered yet, watching. Ugh.
That's horrible, isn't it? That's really disgusting.
So in
So
total,
literally,
27
some
bodies
poor
were
sod
recovered from underneath
watched
the
his
house.
friend get killed and then
Can
he
you
got
imagine
killed
being
afterwards. That's
neighboured?
horrible.
That's mad. Imagine living next door. It is the last place you would think to look.
Yeah.
Because it's not an easy space to manoeuvre in, let alone bury that sheer number of people. But you can take your time with it, innit?
Mhm.
And that's probably why he's sending small, young boys,
Horrible,
young
isn't it?
people to go
That's
down
mad.
and do the digging. Probably because they're smaller and can fit in the space easier. He's sizing them up, and they probably don't even know how sewage works.
No.
Like if you ask like a plumber, can you dig a trench under my house for the sewage? They'd be like, you fucking joking? No, that's not right.
yeah.
Pipes are there. But a 15-year-old boy is not going to question that, is he?
No, they're not, are they?
It's
Bless
mad.
them.
It's mad. It's mad. That sheer amount, because especially they were only looking for one kid.
They were only looking for one person and they found 30 bodies. Oh my god.
We don't know how. We haven't been told how he's killed them yet. No, but we are about to find out. You're going to hate this, but this next detail is really gross.
When we booked him for murder, we asked Gacy where he was born. And Gacy looked at us and said, I was born in a state of confusion.
Oh.
And he smiled like that and we captured the photo.
Not funny. Nobody thinks you're cool, mate. Shut up. You can't be that confused because...
That must have stank. Yes, it did.
33
Apparently.
people.
I wasn't there,
That
thank God.
photo was his mugshot.
But yeah, it's horrible,
if you
isn't it?
Google it, you'll be able to see. As he was saying...
I don't know what a dead body smells like. No, neither do I, thank God.
And it's just
But it must have stank like hell.
Hi everyone.
And there's
it's
30 bodies there. They
You
must
might know
have
me from
really
my true
stank.
crime series on YouTube,
Disgusting.
where we take a deep dive into the minds of some of the worst criminals
Yeah.
in history.
Definitely
Such
want
as
to
the
do
most
this
hated
one.
dad in the
It's called
UK.
The Criminal Makeup.
He is
And there's one about the
a
Ant Hill mob. And we've got to do
worst
about that one.
cult you've never heard of, the Ant Hill Kids.
Oh, the Ant Hill Kids, yeah. We'll do that at some point during the week because that is a freaky one to listen to. It really is.
Unbelievable stories whenever.
Yeah, the Ant Hill Kids is a really weird cult in America. That's going to be really interesting.
Search for the criminal makeup.
Of course,
on your
remember,
favourite
trigger
podcast
warnings.
And make sure to follow so you never miss an episode.
Ooh.
He had confessed to the murder of 33 young men and boys between 1972 and 1978. So, 6 years, 33 people.
6 years and
That's a lot,
33
isn't
people, that's nuts.
Yeah, 6 years.
That's a lot
Can't
of
do the math.
dead bodies knocking around.
Most of John's victims' bodies were found under his house in the crawl space, but in
That's
April
horrible.
1979, the body of Rob, our dear Rob,
from the pharmacy, his body was found floating in a river. So
Oh.
they wouldn't have found. They went there to look for Rob.
Yeah.
Rob went there. They found a load of other people instead.
Mm.
But they did find him eventually, just not where they thought it'd be.
Mm.
And he later confessed to his murder.
He was very descriptive on what he had done with Rob Peast.
Rob Peast's mom was waiting for him in the front parking lot, and Rob said to his mom, "Hey, I'm going to talk to a contractor about a job. I'll be right back." He goes back in the pharmacy. Gacy is in the back parking lot, the alleyway. And as Gacy's leaving, Rob follows him outside and says, "Excuse me, sir, I understand that you hire young kids, and I'm really interested in having a different job." And Gacy says, "Well, jump in the car, I'll have you fill out an application." So
No,
Gacy
don't do
actually
it.
drives Peast willingly to Gacy's house.
Man.
While there, Gacy starts showing Peast some little tricks of the trade of being a clown. He shows him a couple of card tricks, and the last trick that he shows Peast is the handcuff trick.
Oh.
Gacy actually handcuffs himself and turns around and struggles with the handcuffs, and then turns back and he holds the handcuffs up. And Peast is pretty amazed at that, and he said, "Well, that's neat, how'd you do that?" So Gacy says, "Well, here, you handcuff yourself.
Oh
and
dear.
I'll show you how to do that." So Peast handcuffs himself, and he struggles.
You wouldn't do that, would you?
And he looks at Gacy and he says, "Now, what's the trick to this?" And Gacy reaches in his pocket and pulls out a key to the handcuffs, and he says, "The trick is, you gotta have this key."
Oh.
Fucked up, innit?
That's
It's a
mental.
clown trick I can do, and then it has a very horrible twist.
You can see it, like you can see the movie, can't you?
Yeah.
Just playing
Ooh.
around, being like, well, quit playing around, let me go.
As part of his confession, he confessed that he used chloroform to render his victims unconscious.
Oh, such
and
a bad
afterwards,
person.
He used methods of torture.
He did what he called a rope trick.
Oh
And
God.
when he had these young kids incapacitated like that, he would slip a rope over their neck, a
Oh.
knotted rope like a loop, and then put the stick in the back like a tourniquet, and he would slowly turn the tourniquet. And he said he had it perfected so well that he knew exactly how the body would react to each half turn.
Oh, that's horrible, isn't it?
And he went into detail on how he would torture these young men. And he seemed to be pretty proud of that.
So you would literally
He used
like
that to our
snap
advantage,
their
keep
neck.
talking,
Oh, that's
and he
horrible.
described every killing to a T, exactly how it happened,
God.
all 33.
Like, he remembers every single murder.
Horrible,
And
isn't
like,
it?
the fact that it is so clear in his mind every time.
That's disgusting.
He knows what he did, and he obviously isn't sorry or trying to, like, forget or justify or whatever.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
That's brutal.
As the news spread across the country, one viewer realised he had unknowingly participated in John's handcuff trick.
Wow.
And it was a former employee. So he was like one of the guys that got away, essentially.
Thank
his
God.
name was Tony Antonucci. Love that name. And so he worked for him for the painting and decorating business. And Tony had accidentally got a nail stuck in his foot. This is what happened.
John took me and I got a tetanus shot and took me home. And he came over later that evening to check on if I was okay, or that was the theory, but he also had, you know, some wine and we were drinking and he was kind of joking around. It was probably 10:30 at night. I was a high school wrestler. And he said, oh, you know, you're a big wrestler guy, and he started wrestling around with me. He got my left arm, and he got it behind me, and I felt him put a handcuff on it.
Yeah.
I kept flailing my right hand around so that he couldn't get my right arm, but eventually he did get a hold of my right arm, and he knocked me down to the floor with my hands behind me. He left the room for a few minutes, and I realized that if I pulled really hard on my right hand, that I could pull my hand through the handcuff.
Thank
I could get it
God.
out. I took the handcuff that I had gotten out of, and I handcuffed him on one of his wrists, and I
Phew.
reached into his pocket got the key, and I handcuffed him behind his back.
Good.
Laying face down. He goes, "You're the only one that not only got out of the handcuffs, you got them on me."
Wow.
And I didn't know what that meant. I thought that this was some type of test that he had performed before. And I let him stay handcuffed for 10 or 15 minutes
Good.
before I let him out of the handcuffs.
I wouldn't have let him out of the
He
handcuffs.
previously agreed that when I let him up, he would leave.
Get that guy to the police.
That is shocking. Tony still continued to work for him though for a few
What?
months. I would have handed my notice in like on the Monday.
I would have got him to the police.
I just not turned up for work. I don't work here anymore. He didn't report the incident until after John's arrest, which I guess is quite fair enough because you think, oh, that weird thing happened to me, I don't want to talk about it.
It was a bit weird. Sketch, don't want to talk about it.
Tell them about that because it's quite important. So the trial began in February the 6th, 1980, and at this time in Illinois, they still had the death penalty.
Ooh.
Okay.
His defence team were pleading for insanity, and forensic psychologist Helen Morrison remembers.
It was an interesting trial, and what was so fascinating about it was they had so many different psychiatrists saying so many different things. They all came up with.
He was batshit crazy,
diagnoses.
but he knew he was,
Which
and that's
goes
bad.
towards this picture of this not intact human being, this bits and pieces of person.
The trial lasted 5 weeks, and though the defence was pleading insanity, the prosecution team was determined to prove that John was fully responsible for his
Good.
actions.
Good.
Here's Liz.
There's a difference between psychopathy and mental illness. Psychopaths are rational. They know what they're doing and they know what they do is wrong, but they decide to do it anyway.
Nuts.
So he was pretty culpable for his crimes.
He was vicious, he was evil, he was not insane in any way, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he killed these people for self-preservation because he was so politically and business-wise, he couldn't have this public out that he was taking advantage of these kids.
One of the prosecution witnesses was Tony.
I saw him in court, and he was off to my left, sitting at the table where the defense attorneys are, and he just stared straight forward. He was fairly far away. I might have caught his eye on occasion in the courtroom, but I was pretty nervous to be a witness on a trial of that significance.
Scary, isn't it? Can you imagine being a witness in a trial like that? That must have been horrible.
On March 13, 1980, the jury had made their decision about the fate of John.
It
Good.
didn't take long for them to find him guilty. I think it took maybe less than 3 hours, which was amazing. And then he was found guilty.
Wow.
It was kind of amazing how fast everything went. When you look at other trials that have gone on, this trial went extremely fast.
I suppose 3 hours is quite fast for a trial.
William Conkle called him a ruthless, sadistic killing machine. And
God.
I think that's a pretty apt description.
Very
I'm
much
surprised
so.
It didn't take them that long. Like, the evidence supporting this, the fact that he lives on a grave dug by his own employees, which are probably laying in there right now.
Yeah.
That's terrible, isn't it?
There's no.
It's like, the cookie jar is empty, Helen. Where have all the cookies gone? Whilst, my mouth is covered in chocolate. Yeah.
How many times has that happened?
Never. So he was sentenced to death.
Good.
And he was taken to the Menard Correctional Centre in Illinois, where he would remain on death row for 14 years. And so, on May 10th, 1994, John was executed by lethal injection
Thank
at
God.
Stateville Penitentiary
Yes.
in Illinois.
Good. Scumbag.
He did not give a shit up until his final moments. Do you know what his last words were?
Go on.
What? Kiss my ass.
Oh no.
Dickhead!
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, that's so annoying. What a dick! What a dick! Yeah.
I don't know, right, well, sorry, I'm cancelling it. I'm cancelling it. You don't get to die today, because you obviously, you're happy about it. Get back in your cell.
That's
and
terrible,
then
isn't it?
Throw up your last meal. Because you don't get that either. You don't get to digest whatever it is. Get back in there. Dickhead! I actually think that might be the worst one so far.
I still think Ed Gein's up there.
Ed Gein's definitely
they're all
up there.
But this one, it's just the level of just all of it. It's a lot. It's a lot. That's one that
30 odd murders.
Well,
That's
that is bad.
insane, right?
So long, because if you look at the timeline, these are all people that went missing at various different intervals at time points, and then they've only just been being over 6 years. These people have been missing for all this time, and they were there all along.
It's shocking.
Yeah,
because I mean, you say Ed Gein was really bad, but his body count was low.
Yeah, was it? It was.
Well, because they were all already dead.
Yeah, they were.
He only actually killed 2 people, didn't he?
Oh,
look, that's better. This is like what killer bingo.
Alexa, stop. Right, thank you very much everyone for joining me with tonight's podcast Listen Along. That was quite a scary one. John Wayne Gacy is not a very nice man, and I'm pleased he is rotting in hell. 30 odd murders. That is disgusting. So I'm pleased that he got the death penalty and is now no longer alive. Not a very nice person. Yeah, so... oh, that was horrible. So I'm glad he's rotting in hell. I hope you guys enjoyed Devils in the Dark. It's one of my favourite podcasts. I do recommend you have a listen by yourself as well if you haven't listened to them yet, because they are really interesting to listen to. They're very good podcasts. Indeed, so that's very good. So please do check those out. We'll be doing some different ones next week as well. And like I was saying, we'll be doing the Ant Hill cult as well at some point. We're going to listen to that one from the Criminal Makeup. Indeed. So thank you very much everyone for watching. This was a very grim one. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them are scary. I do love a good podcast. There's some really interesting ones that we could do as well. So I look forward to picking another one that's quite juicy for us all to listen to. Right, thanks very much everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now, Barney Badger Army. Keep safe, keep well. Much love everyone, and I'll see you in the next vlog, video, stream or short. And I'm charging my headphones, so we'll be good to go tomorrow. Thanks for watching everyone. See you later. Bye. And if you're watching this back tomorrow with your cornflakes, it's much appreciated. Thanks guys, see you next time. Bye.